Howdy all. Great. That's the first thing that everybody's going to see is Ross going, howdy all. It's one of those boring August weekends. I'm cut out for fall, winter, and spring. Summer is sort of like lazy, and we're in that dead zone of like 5-6 weeks before training camp. So like I'm really into baseball right now and begging for any bit of hockey information right now. So Ross, I watched the World Junior Summer Showcase, the Canada-US game, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's how hungry I was for hockey, was that I was watching that.
I can understand that. I mean, I'm in the same boat now that my baseball team stinks. So I definitely was watching some of the Summer Showcase. I still have some of it on the DVR because a lot of times I watch it more than once. And I even listened – on my way back from New York yesterday, I even listened to one of the games. That's how much I was, looking for.
Your baseball team stinks when Wilmer Flores is playing first base.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things. I love the outrage that occurs on social media when certain things happen, and it's beginning to be a regular occurrence Sunday nights at 9:00, because anybody who goes on there and talks about Game of Thrones gets beaten down. Like, don't talk about it, I'm taping it. Then don't be on social media, you jerk. I get the fact that you want to watch it, you don't want to be surprised, you don't want spoilers out there. Then don't be thumbing through Twitter, because people are going to do it. You know that. There's an old I don't know if you ever saw the Kids in the Hall. They were a Canadian comedy troupe. It was great. It was great. It was like after SCTV.
I don't know if it was great.
It had its moments.
They had some good guys on that shit.
They did some good guys and some good skits. And I remember one skit where they were talking about somebody being evil, and the guy would say, "Have you ever seen the movie Presumed Innocent?" He says, spoiler, his wife killed her. So he blows the plot for the movie. I get that people don't want to have their, have the plot and the hook for the episode, but just get off social media if you don't want to be spoiled.
Now, speaking of the Mets, did Noah Syndergaard tweet last night? Because he could have ruined things for people.
It's true. I was wondering who that big guy was in the background there. I said, that guy's awfully tall for in the background. And they're focusing. I said, this has got to be at least a celebrity who's in the background there. It was way too prominent. And as soon as I saw it was Noah Syndergaard, I
don't watch.
Give him the hammer, damn it!
Yeah,
and he threw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball at the Night King. That's what he did. It's like, yeah, but I mean, it really is unbelievable. So like, I just, and there are people out there. I mean, I love the show. It's sort of like against type for me because I'm not like a Lord of the Rings type of guy. And
Machiavellian in nature. Say it.
What's that?
You love anything that's Machiavellian in nature.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and it's like and there's a good character gets killed every episode, so it's good turnover. But
it's an incredible Deadpool. It's an incredible Deadpool type of show.
Yes, but you should watch it, Russ. It is good.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, now back to the world of sports, and we'll get to hockey in a second, folks. Because remember, it is August the 7th, so we're stretching a little bit here. We're going to talk about things that are non-hockey. Over the weekend, there was an injury to Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and he's not that. To my mind, he's not that particularly good of a quarterback anyway. So it was like
he's average to below average.
Yeah, they were going to suck anyway. So I wasn't. But that sort of shot the foot in the plans of the Jets and the Bills, who are trying to be bad this year. And now the Dolphins probably will be just as bad, but not on purpose. But they went out and signed Jay Cutler, who had a job all lined up with Fox as a commentator. Now, the only thing I can think of, Russ, is that he got a guarantee from Fox that he was not going to lose his job if he went back to the NFL for another year. Because I wouldn't think that he would risk millions of dollars as a commentator for a one-shot deal here with the
whoa. This is a one-shot $10 million deal that he reluctantly took. Like, this whole Jay Cutler act, I'm so tired of. Like, here's how apparently it broke down. Like, they contacted him. They made an offer. They made another offer. They texted him. He turns it down. He goes, no, thank you. He doesn't return calls or texts. And then a $10 million offer comes in. And he goes, yeah, I'll take it. It's like, come on. Wouldn't you? $10 million ever on Fox.
Wouldn't you? You would take the
but here's the thing, Ant.
Okay.
Yes, would I? Sure. But he doesn't like football. We know he doesn't like football.
He likes $10 million, though.
Yeah, that's the problem. His commitment to the game.
Hey, there's a lot of people I know who don't like there's a lot of people who I know don't necessarily like accounting, but they're good at it, and they do it because they get paid well to do it. Even
is he good at it? He's not really good at it.
Well, good enough compared to, I mean, you could say.
I'm going to tell you what this is. This is the classic case of an
I'm not a Cutler fan by any stretch.
Yes, this is the classic case of an offensive coordinator saying,
yeah,
he's a guy who could run my system. You know what? I'm so tired of hearing that, because if you're a good quarterback, you could learn any system. Don't think you could pick up a guy off the scrap heap and he's going to just motor your way through the AFC East like it's going to be magic. Apparently he hasn't touched a football in 7 months. So he will come in as cold as Ryan Fitzpatrick last year and yield worse results. That's my prediction.
There's a very good possibility of that. And considering the fact whatever's going on with Jarvis Landry right now, he may be losing one of his potential targets. So he's going to have to try to earn that $10 million.
Well, they can't sign Anquan Bolden because that Methuselah has signed with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, this is the thing. It's like football is a young person's game. If you're in your 30s and you're at a skill position, unless you're somebody like a freak like Brady or a James Lofton who played into his late 30s, you're not going to be good. I mean, you've taken so many injuries, so many bumps, so many bruises that you're going to be slowed down. I mean, I saw Bolden, when he was with the Cardinals, then with the Ravens a little bit. Last time I saw him, it didn't look like he had much left, but the Bills really have nothing after Sammy Watkins.
I mean, he runs like Pete Metzelaars now. Like, is that what they really want?
Well, Pete Metzelaars played for them for 7 or 8 years. So they don't care. Hell, I mean, at least he could catch the ball. He was slower than a sundial, but at least he could catch the ball.
But that's the thing. Like, in the old days, you could bring these receivers back, right? Like a Charlie Joyner, because he knew how to run a route. Nowadays, the defensive backfields are so fast. Even if you're a good route runner, you still have to have a certain amount of speed or they're going to jump the routes and intercept you. But you know what? Again, I applaud the Dolphins and I applaud the Bills. As a Jet fan, good moves.
Well, all I can say is by week 3, it's probably going to be Christian Hackenberg.
You will never see Christian Hackenberg. He is still in camp, only taking second-team reps. He is the biggest farce in football right now.
By week 3, you're going to see Christian Hackenberg, Matt Moore, and T.J. Yates as the 3 quarterbacks, and Brady's going to be sitting there. Brady could be sitting in the pocket in a wheelchair and win that division. That's how bad it is.
And I don't want to see Anthony laughing because the Eagles are going to trade Josh Matthews, and they're going to ruin the day. They do that too.
I mean, that's the thing. They get any value from. Otherwise, if guys get hurt or Aguilar isn't, reincarnated like everybody's saying. You're gonna need Matthews. They may have to keep him unless they get a deal that's to their liking.
And then you wonder why I don't give a crap about the NFL. Hello, hockey world. Today is Monday, August 7th, 2017.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anthony Mangione, senior editor at Sunrise Philly Magazine.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And when I can actually talk, I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Eklund may join us on location from Florida, but we will forge through with a number of little things that were going on in the National Hockey League and in the hockey world. We'll start with the completion of the World Junior Summer Showcase in Plymouth, Michigan. Russ, we know that these games are more just to evaluate, for the individual countries to evaluate the players for the World Junior. I mean, they're going to separate to their different club teams, or, in the case of a player like Timothy Liljegren, the Leafs pick, he may play in the American Hockey League with the Toronto Marlies. So it's the last chance for the hierarchies of Sweden, Finland, the U.S., and Canada to get a look at them all together under the same roof and evaluate which direction they want to go. I have to say, starting because the U.S. and Canada played on Saturday. It was 7-5 a victory for Team USA, and I have to say, for a guy who was maligned significantly before he was drafted in the first round by the Edmonton Oilers, I thought Kailer Yamamoto might have been the best player on the ice in that game, and he really impressed me because the size really didn't matter. It was the speed. It was his willingness to go to certain areas of the ice where he could tip the puck or annoy the goaltender, and he did that consistently in the games that he played. I was very impressed with him.
Well, look, maybe someday he'll hit a brick wall as he moves up the ladder, but there's never been a game I haven't been impressed with Kailer Yamamoto. So, for anybody to not be impressed with him before, they just weren't paying attention. It's just he's always been this good now. But again, still going up to the NHL level someday. We'll see if he's still as effective. That'll be the big key. But right now, yeah, of course he's great.
He's going to hear the same thing as well as Alex DeBrincat has heard as well. And once we see him hit the pros this year, we're going to hear there's going to be obviously a lot of look. But again, if you got a supreme skill set, and in this case, I think Yamamoto has that, along with DeBrincat, you hope that those skill sets are going to outweigh the physical limitations that they apparently have. So we'll see. Again, I'm very curious. I think they both were excellent picks where they got them, and they're going to enhance their clubs as they go forward.
And as I said about DeBrincat when he was picked by Chicago in the second round 2 drafts ago, that had I knew he was going to go back to Erie. He's going to make the Blackhawks this year. He's going to play probably on the line with Taves, and he'll probably and if he does, he'll probably be a contender for Rookie of the Year because he's got that skill set, and it just fell into their laps. And of course it was Chicago, and Chicago is the one that got him.
I wrote something today, Mike, on Casey Middlestat. Same sort of thing. You wonder why each draft certain guys, drop a few slots and all of a sudden end up with a team.
Right.
And it's always a multitude of things, right? Like with Middlestat, was it the pull-ups? Was it he hasn't played a lot of games? Everybody seems to just have to work through their biases, and then you get to a team who doesn't have any, and they say, okay, you know what? We're going to take this guy. And so Middlestat, anytime I've ever seen him, same as Yamamoto, and he played great with Yamamoto, anytime I've ever seen him, he's always been one of the best guys on the ice. Doesn't matter if he's playing up in age, doesn't matter. And I kind of wish things would get to be that simple again sometimes with scouting and just look at a guy and say, this guy loves hockey. That's all he thinks about. And he is just a straight-up hockey player. He makes defensive plays. He does everything. And right now we're looking at the really still a guy with a high ceiling because he's already got the pro body, but he's going to get stronger in Minnesota. And when he gets stronger, he's going to be even harder to deal with. So I look at a guy like that. I also look at Joey Anderson. I brought him up a couple of years ago, and I felt the Devils got a steal on him. And, of course, now you see in these games where he could be a bit of a sniper. And that's, again, there's always these kids that they're always going to fall through the cracks. But really what happens is teams just look for certain things. And if you don't check off all those boxes, or you didn't have a good interview, or you don't look strong enough, or they think you've reached your ceiling, then you get passed by.
Now, again, I think that a big determining factor for some of these decisions that Team USA or Team Canada have to make is how these players play in junior, or in the case of Team USA, play in the NCAA. And we saw that on the weekend here. Jake Ottinger played against Finland, made 37 saves. Team USA won that game. Team USA started Joseph Woll against Canada. He didn't face that many shots, let in 5 goals, but Canada was a much tougher competition. I think a lot of the determination of who's going to be that number 1 goaltender going into Buffalo is going to be how Woll plays at Boston College and how Ottinger plays at Boston U.
That will have a lot to do with it. That game was just a game where there were just a lot of goals. Not a lot of shots.
I don't think he was really he wasn't bad. It was just
every goalie was getting victimized. It wasn't just him. So
it was definitely one of those teams.
Yeah, you just can't look at it that way, and that's why I don't put too much stock into the series like that. Even right now, I'm getting messages on for people like with Middlestat. Hey, Russ, he's playing left wing, so maybe he'll play on the same line as Eichel. I'm like, he's playing in a showcase. They might use him at left wing in the World Juniors, but he is a center. You didn't draft him to play him on the wing.
Like anybody, keep an open mind because and actually that's an enhancement if you're Buffalo. You look at it and you say, hey, that's an option, but you develop him as a center. That should be the main primary thing from Buffalo's perspective. And again, that works. But again, as Russ said, Buffalo didn't have any preconceived biases about Middlestat. I liked him. I figured he was going to end up being a top, in the top 5, and it didn't necessarily shake out that way for him. But that's the Buffalo's gain in this case.
Yep. Well, and Buffalo, I mean, they could very easily start him on the wing because they have Eichel and Ryan O'Reilly up the middle. They did that with Sam Reinhart. I mean, Sam Reinhart in the World Junior played center, but for the Sabres, he's played the wing predominantly for the years.
Yeah, he's a better center than Reinhart though.
No, I agree, but
what it is because Reinhart didn't really know how to patrol defensively in the middle of the ice. You could see Middlestat knows how to do that. He really does. He's got that inane sense where he could just pick up a turnover, turn it into an offensive play. Like there are just guys that know how to do that.
Now, a couple impressions I got from the Canada side here. Sam Steele led the Western Hockey League last year in scoring. It was 30th overall pick of the Anaheim Ducks. By the way, Leafs fans, that was the first-round pick that they got for the Kessel deal that they flipped for Freddie Anderson. So here you go. You're going down the road again here of Ricard Raquel and John Gibson for Tyler Biggs. But Freddie Anderson is a pretty good goaltender, so at least the Leafs got something this time.
Here's the thing, though. You can't look at it that way only because the Leafs needed a goalie so badly.
And Anderson's a good goalie. And Anderson's a good goalie, but that just shows that Anaheim can draft even at the bottom of the first round. But Steele was very impressive. Seemed to find the scoring zones, was always around the net. Conversely, Russ, 3rd overall pick Pierre-Luc Dubois. I don't know. He didn't do that great in the World Juniors last year. He was playing. Now he was playing the wing. He wasn't playing center, but they had him in a
pretty defensive role too.
Right, and it looks like they're doing that to him again. And honestly,
fine. I mean, I don't worry about it. Again, if he wants to play for John Tortorella, he's going to have to play a certain amount of that. He is strong enough that the offense will come. Like I don't worry about that. See, I don't sweat that detail. I just think again, and this is what I talk about with these tournaments. Guys get played at a position all the time. They get asked to play a role. The coach goes up to him and basically says, "You want to be on this team? This is what I envision for you." So like Middlestat, hey, we got a lot of centers here, guys with more experience than you. But if you want to play on this team, play the wing. Same thing with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now, Sam Steele, I felt like had been just getting the treatment where Kevin Labanc, like Hockey Canada was just ignoring him as good as he had been. And some will say, well, he wasn't fast enough, whatever. Well, he's been putting up a lot of points. He did look great. And I think he's a heck of a player. I didn't know he had a backyard rink the way he has one. Wow, that was impressive. Maybe the best backyard rink I've ever seen in the history of backyard rinks. But the kid can play.
Don't say it, Darren Drager.
Yeah, the kid can play.
You're going right out of my mouth, Mike. Drager might take offense.
All right, the kid can play though, and I'm happy. I'm always happy to see when guys finally get their chance because again, there are guys that always get cut. Yamamoto got cut. Now he's one of the best guys on the team. Sometimes, even though it's not fair that these guys get cut, sometimes it actually makes them better. Even though that's not a great way to do it, sometimes that's the result.
It becomes a psychological
play,
which motivates them, puts a chip on the shoulder. I'll show you, and comes back even stronger, especially if they have that skill, if they have that higher level skill set.
And as we talked about last week, you have to realize that these players are, more than likely not only trying out for the World Junior team, they're trying out for the Olympic team because right now it looks like it's going to predominantly be NCAA products. And if you've got Ottinger and Wall, and there's a couple other goaltenders, former Flyer prospect Merrick Madsen. I know that Kevin Allen used Madsen as one example of somebody who, might be an Olympic candidate if he hasn't signed. I know his rights were traded, but he hasn't signed yet with the team with Arizona, I believe it was. So, I mean, if he doesn't, then he could qualify for the Olympics. Two more things here, just on the summer showcase. Rasmus Dahlin finally got into the lineup in the final game against Finland. And as expected, they were loading on the minutes for Liljegren when Dahlin was not in the lineup. But as soon as Dahlin got there, Dahlin was on the first defensive pairing.
Yeah,
big kid, mobile. He's not as big as Victor Hedman, but you can see the size. You can see the willingness to get involved physically, but you see the offensive tools there as well. I mean, he looks like the total package. But I'll tell you, Russ, Liljegren did a lot, I think, and you can't overestimate what somebody does in this and say, okay, you can carry that forth and say, he's going to make the NHL this year. But I don't think it's out of the question that he will at least get a reasonable look at Leafs training camp. It's not just Marlies or SHL. If he plays well, I think there's an outside chance he could make the Leafs out of training camp.
I think there is. And I also think that Dahlin going out was a tremendous break for him, because then he got to show off those skills while his bosses were in town. That was a pretty big deal for him. So that was good, and he shined. Now, the one thing I'll tell you about Sweden is they don't always make the right decisions anymore about what defensemen to play where in these big tournaments. I've noticed in the last couple of years them juggling around guys, and they always seem to put the shiny new guy in that number one role, like they had Liljegren in a couple of years ago in the under-18s. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they do that, but they do. And it's just a weird thing. It's not to take away from Dahlin, because I do think he's terrific and amazing and generational. But I've noticed this has become a thing with them now.
Well, they were very careful with him at the World Junior last January.
But that was a team that was really not great.
Right. No, it wasn't. But you would have thought
defensively, so that's right. Why.
But I see that to me that would lead me to believe that, okay, if we're not great, let's put this guy out there and at least get the experience. And they really babied him and really, limited his minutes and limited his exposure at the World Junior in January, which I was a little surprised.
Was criticized for it. Actually, the coach was criticized for it because he had played certain guys that he wanted to play, and wasn't necessarily. I don't think the coach was doing this to protect them. I think he was just doing it because he was playing the guys he wanted, and he took some criticism, not in the U.S. obviously, but in his own country, that's what I gathered.
Yeah, but the next time we'll see Canada and the U.S. playing together will be at what used to be Ralph Wilson Stadium, now New Era Field in Buffalo. The thing I'll be curious about, Russ, is how many people will be in the stands. It's December 29th. It's not New Year's Eve. I thought if it was New Year's Eve, I think that would have been a disaster, because nobody's going to want to go all the way over and then try to get back for New Year's Eve on.
On the 29th, I might make that game, because I know I want to go to the game at Citi Field, the Winter Classic. So it's possible, but I think they'll probably get a half-full stadium. That's what I think they're going to get.
Yeah, I'd say about 50,000. The stadium is 75. The question is, will they cut off the upper decks? Will they just have?
Yeah, I think they'll cover the upper deck. I think that's probably for TV. I think that's what'll end up happening. But I got some info this morning on the Sochi Cup, and so I get texts from Russia on social media, and it's interesting.
I know some in Russia with Russ Cohen,
and because I'm not watching these games or practices or anything, right? But the information's good. The person I know covers it and is right there. And so the interesting thing is, so the first thing that was noticed was that maybe Willie Desjardins not going to be the best coach for this team, Canada. Now, they did win a game 1-0. But it was against a pretty weak KHL team. That HC team is not a great team. The goalie is kind of interesting, though, because Konstantin Barulin was drafted like a million years ago by the Blues, and he's 32 years old now. And so this is why, when Islander fans get excited about Sorokin and the Rangers fans get excited about Shesterkin, doesn't mean these guys will ever come over. And Barulin's the same thing. He was drafted in like the 3rd round, and you wasted a 3rd-round pick. He's never playing for the St. Louis Blues, but they won that game 1-0. Jesse Blacker, who Mike is very familiar with, got the game-winning goal.
Former 2nd-round pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs, traded for Peter Holland. Yes, thank you.
But here's the thing. So Blacker, Gilbert Brule, and Max Talbot are some of their, better players. They're playing the real Russian team today. And I can only imagine what
we have an update. We have an update on the score. The final score was Team Canada lost to Russia 3-2. Brandon Kozin, another former Leaf, with 2 assists. Goals by Gilbert Brule and Maxim Nero. I don't know who started.
Maxim Nero, I remember. Yeah, but Brule is young and could skate, and so in a situation like this, I hope he can shine a little bit. I kind of wonder if Russia took it easy on him too. I kind of wonder because they got some players if they want to.
Anthony, lulling them into a false sense of security. That's what the Russians are doing.
They could be, but it's what I've been told is there is a noticeable difference when you see the Russian team compared to these other teams. Even if the scores right now are close, I'm just going to say don't be fooled by them, because unless some major things happen, again, we don't know how the U.S. is even going to operate. I mean, if they go the college route, it's probably the best way. But again, all these colleges are going to have to be in on it and say, we're okay. And I think players will lose either 4 or 5 games, but it's only a 30-something game season, right? So who knows if they're willing to lose multiple players for a 30-something game season. So we'll see how that plays out.
I mean, Anthony, okay, I want to bring this up, and I'm going to get your opinion here first, because the facade continues with Alex Ovechkin. There was a report in the Washington Post this morning that Alex Ovechkin is still hoping to represent his country at the Olympics. For people who don't understand what's going on here, he's not going to bail out on his contract. I would suspect that before the regular season, the NHL is going to come out and say that any player that leaves for Pyeongchang will be suspended for the rest of the season and the playoffs. Now, I don't know if they can get away without pay, but that would probably abrogate the CBA.
That's the nuclear option there. That's
right.
Yeah, I mean, it probably won't be without pay, but they'll probably still get paid. But they can suspend them.
Yeah.
For the rest of the season and for the playoffs. And if that's the case, then, I don't think that Ted Leonsis is going to be so happy-go-lucky about letting Ovechkin and Kuznetsov and whoever else wants to go. They're not going to go.
No, they're not going to go. They're not. As much as they want to, they're not going to go. That's too much.
This is PR right now. That's all.
Yeah.
Ovechkin is doing his best PR.
And it's not even that. And I'll be honest, it's not even that. I'm reading the message and I'm going, it's not. It's almost like he sounds resigned to it. He knows, and that was my read on it. He says, "I'm hoping." I was like, when you say hoping, that's not as strong as I'm going to go here come hell or high water.
Right.
He knows that there's, the potential for this is not good. Not good for him, and he's not the point of his career. What's his age now?
31.
31. He's a year older than Crosby.
I mean, it's not. He's a year older than Crosby, so it's not. But it's still a year, losing.
Yeah, you don't know when you're going to have a career-ending injury.
He's in what would be the prime year of his. He doesn't want to lose a prime shot at a Stanley Cup. Stanley Cup run at this point. It's the one these medals.
This is the thing, Anthony. I think he realizes this is Russia's best chance to win a gold with everybody else sending. Yeah. Limited teams.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if he can't go, then he loses out on the glory. Because weren't both his parents like Olympic?
Yeah, his mother was a gymnast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so that it means. I don't doubt that it means a lot to him. But I think the thing that would sting the most is that the year that he doesn't go, that he's been going since 2006, and the year that he doesn't go, they win the gold medal. Right. That's the thing that I think will hurt him the most, and that's why maybe he's so adamant. But I think this is more damage control because I think back in Russia. It's like,
if I'm basing this off the quote here and what I'm reading here, it sounds to me like it almost resignation that, he says, I'm hoping to go versus, being much more adamant about it, Mike. And I know he's trying to straddle a very thin line here in his commitments to Washington and obviously going to Russia to play in the Olympics. But
here's the thing.
This is what happens when you sign a contract to that level. These are the expectations that come with it.
The Capitals are already risking taking a step back this year based on who they lost on the blue line. It's almost a guarantee they're going to take some sort of step back, at least as far as being a defensive team in the Barry Trotz system, even if they put young guys in there, right? So the last thing Ted Leonsis can afford to do is lose Ovechkin for a period of time and Kuznetsov. I mean, because if you let one go, the other has to go. And so he can't afford to lose those guys for any period of time. Now, if they'd have won a cup last year, maybe he'd be more forgiving this year.
I think at that point exactly. If they won the cup last year or the year before that, they would have been a bit more inclined to say, go ahead, Alex, we'll give you that. Right. Hasn't happened. Still can't get past the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and don't you think if Alex Ovechkin and say Dmitry Orlov and Kuznetsov want to go, that Nicholas Backstrom is going to want to go too? I mean, he's going to want to play for Sweden. So
it's a domino effect especially for the Capitals.
Oh yeah,
as many international players as they have.
Yeah,
it'll be a domino effect, and they'll be gutted. And that's the reason why I think why the NHL would go that route, that hard line. Players from going to Pyeongchang.
They will. They don't want to appear to be the bad guys in the NHL, so they're going to wait till the last possible minute to make this public, whatever. And they're probably going to keep it low key. I expect
they're going to get beaten. They're going to get beaten up pretty good in the press, any more so than they've had on any other decisions that they made. But again,
I expect it to be like a Friday at 5 o'clock email.
Take out the trash day here at the NHL. No, I'll tell you when it's going to happen. It's gonna happen. The regular season starts on Wednesday. On a Wednesday, they're gonna release that on Tuesday.
No, they'll release it the Friday before the week of the regular season, so it's like forgotten about already.
Okay,
that's what I.
All right, you mentioned Crosby. Crosby celebrated his 30th birthday. I wasn't sure if it was Sunday or today, but I looked at Crosby's stats. 782 games played. 382 goals, 645 assists, 1,027 points, 2 gold medals, 3 Stanley Cups. Obviously, he's gonna have a tough time getting in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
The question is, real tough. No, it'll be really close. What I'm questioning is, with his history of injuries, how many goals do we think he's gonna get? I mean, will he get to 500? Will he get to 600?
Yeah, I think
he'll get to 500. Will he? Let's skip 500 then. Will he get to 600? He's 30 now. We don't know how many more seasons he's going to have. You can think
he used to play at least three or four more seasons at the clip he played at this year, especially.
Yeah, I'm going to say no.
He can, but that's the question if he's going to be able to do that. And again, he's had 2 long playoff runs now.
Right.
Adds tread to the tire. Takes away from the tire. That's just that, and that's where you do begin to wonder whether or not injuries are going to prop up.
Yeah, I think 600 is a little lofty right now.
Yeah, and he's been remarkably.
Yeah, I'm safe with 5.
Right.
6, maybe pushing.
Hey, Ak, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Can barely hear you.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me get close to you guys. Is that better?
Oh, you're
That's
close.
Better.
Is that close enough for you, Mike?
Now we can see your cornea.
What are you saying exactly? All right. Sorry,
okay. Well, we saved the rumor talk until you got on the show. So
thanks.
let's start with that.
I'm at the Maccabi games in Florida, which is like a really cool thing. Our team just lost to Toronto. Toronto of all teams. Lost 3-2 to Toronto. Great girls though.
Mike bet on Toronto, but oh well.
Here's a good story I want to tell you guys. I think this is really cool. So a good thing about Toronto. Okay, so there were these I had money with me, but I only had a $100 bill because I hadn't broken it yet, whatever. So I'm walking around with this, and I lost it. Mike, you can relate to this because I dropped money one time. I dropped money one time with you.
Yeah, please. I've never seen somebody scramble so much as it was the Wells Fargo Center. It was windy out, and Eck had a roll of $20 bills, and all of a sudden they blew out, and we were all chasing money all over the parking lot.
Yeah, it's one of my finer moments, Mike. So I lost this $100 bill, and I'm like, oh man. And I'm walking around, but I didn't tell anybody. I just knew this. So my wife knew it though. So she's walking with my son somewhere, and these two little kids from Toronto found the $100 bill. Like, we found a $100 bill. They're showing their parents. And the parents are like, well, go ask if this is anybody. So like, okay. So they start walking around. Did anybody lose a $100 bill? Like, I'm like, people are really being super nice. And my wife's like, and I wasn't going to say anything at all because at that point I was just so embarrassed. I'm going to take $100 from these kids who just found it, whatever. My wife, of course, says, my husband lost a $100 bill. I'm like, Lord. So I go over. So I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. And he's like, oh no, thanks. We're glad we found it. So I'm like, you guys are from Toronto, right? And they're like, yeah. I said, okay, you know what? I got their number. I'm like, next time the Flyers are in town, you guys are going to a Flyers Leafs game up there. Thanks so much for being so cool. So
Nice.
Yeah. So then they were all fired
nice.
about that. So it was good karma, for the whole situation here. Anyway, I realize I'm wearing a Flyers hat, which I never would do during a podcast meeting like this. Here we go. All right.
That helps.
Yeah, I still can't tell you're wearing one. That's good.
Yeah, it's got the name on the back.
I'm only wearing a flip. I'm not wearing it because I'm supposed to make the record straight. I'm from Team Philadelphia. We're supposed to wear Philadelphia garb.
There you go. Okay, that's forgiven then.
Thank you.
God knows you wouldn't want to wear that loser Eagle stuff.
No, or a Phillies hat. Lord help us. All right. So anyway, the rumors. Just two quick things, guys. I wasn't going to come on the podcast because I am on vacation, like I said. We're about to take on Alberta, believe it or not, a team from Alberta. So, by the way, the Canadian girls soccer team. I've never heard so many. I'm sorry. 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 The most polite kids in the world. Meanwhile, our girls, 3 of them leveled 2 of their girls right off the bat. And the Toronto fans are like, these are 15-year-old girls. The Toronto parents are like, stupid Broad Street bullies. What are they doing? It's crazy. So it was a good old-fashioned Flyer. Toronto just right out like the Stanley Cup Finals in like 2000 and the Stanley Cup playoffs in like 2003 was it?
Ty Domi's gonna jump into the penalty box anytime now.
So Charlie and Eli, the 2 boys who found my $100 bill. Thank you so much, guys, and we can't wait to get you guys set up in Toronto. It's gonna be fun. All right, rumors. Real quick. I've been chasing for 4 days now. 2 of the teams that I follow a lot, and obviously 2 of my 2 favorite teams, Montreal and Philly, who don't do trades very often with each other. As you guys know, a lot of people are like, Ekman makes up Flyers rumors, whatever. Understand that if I was to make up rumors, this would be the worst team for me to do so because I am credentialed in the press box. I have to deal with them all the time. So believe me when I say to you that I'm not making up this rumor. This is legitimate. Not that I make up rumors for other teams, but I'm just saying for Philly, it would be really hardest for me to do because I am held accountable by them. We have how many seats in the press box? 3 now. So anyway, okay, so this is the deal. Montreal has been talking to Philly, looking for a defenseman. Obviously, Montreal needs a defenseman. The Flyers have defensemen, and there's a good mixture there. There's a good combination there. The Canadians have been trying to trade Galchenyuk to the Flyers, I was told, but the Flyers don't want Galchenyuk. And for whatever reason, there's a couple. Galchenyuk is definitely one of those players that runs hot or cold with guys, I find. You guys still have me, right? I make sure I didn't get going.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, just
be like, okay, cool. Let's just all rest.
No, we're just letting you go because
it sounds just good enough.
Yeah,
okay.
we'll debate it after you're off. So
okay,
we'll just let you go.
So I'm sorry for being so close. I'm just trying to make sure I can be heard.
No, it's good.
Galchenyuk, the Flyers don't have any interest in. Even so, basically, how it seemed to go is the Flyers tried to get Pacioretty out of them, which is a lot, obviously. Pacioretty, offered up Sanheim, and it started off like a 5th or 6th round draft pick. Is what I heard. It went to a 3rd round draft pick. Sanheim, a 3rd round draft pick, but Montreal still was not quite okay with that. Montreal said, okay, well, how about Galchenyuk instead? The Flyers said, not a chance. We're going to give you Sanheim for Galchenyuk and anything. So they said to Montreal, would you like? And no, Montreal said, well, what if we went for a different defenseman besides Sanheim? To which the Flyers responded, no, we don't want Galchenyuk. And so it's kind of left at that. That's how I was told the story went. And this is from a really good source at the NHL who is familiar with both teams and knows them very well. And I said who it was. He probably doesn't take too much figuring out, actually, if you're out there. But I won't go any further. Just think of the teams involved. So Montreal. So that's where that's at right now. Still talking. Teams are still talking. But it's not done. But there's definitely it's not a done deal. It's not dead.
Okay. And go ahead. Sorry.
Then after that, suddenly JVR rumors started popping up again. Van Riemsdyk rumors. Did I lose you? You have me?
We have you.
Okay, so JVR rumors. So John Van Riemsdyk. Oh my God.
Okay.
Sorry. Too many Baileys out here in the sun. Bailey's on ice. Do you want me to call back in?
No, we're good. We're good. Keep going.
JVR for a couple teams interested. Last week we were talking about the Bozak rumors that were floated out there by Larry Brooks. Well, those discussions did take place. Toronto was not willing to give up Bozak for what was being offered. I don't think what was being offered. The only thing I know is it wasn't exactly what we were hearing, which was the defenseman, right, that we were hearing out of New York. But it wasn't that guy. So JVR. So now JVR. The Rangers have started talking about JVR again, and the Rangers have always liked Van Riemsdyk. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they got into this with them a little bit more. But they're not the only team. Columbus and Florida, who I met with somebody down here in Florida, who because I'm not too far from where the Panthers practice and play, and I have some good friends down here. So I met with a Florida Panthers guy last night for dinner, and he confirmed that they had a lot of interest in JVR, going back to this time last year, and even during the season at one point. Right. But the Leafs had made it clear that they weren't going to trade him during the season last year. So. But, so those are the three teams. You can look on the rumor chart. I'm going to be adding a couple people on the rumor chart this afternoon as well. Matt Duchene, there's rumors flying around about him in Nashville again, which I think were amplified by the fact he was caught wearing some like Tennessee shirt or something like that, one of those things on Instagram. But, so people are, connecting dots. But that's all it is. To me, I don't think there's really anything to it. I don't think there's actually anything going down with that. So so that's you guys want to discuss for a second, and then I can go. But I'll hang on as long as I can, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, Russ. Let's start with the Montreal Philly. Pacioretty's under contract for 2 more years at $4.5 million. He's the captain of the Canadiens. For me, right now with a team that lost scoring in this offseason, losing Radulov. It's tough in my mind to see Montreal even open to the possibility of trading Pacioretty.
Well, but Montreal, if they're looking for a puck-moving defenseman, Sanheim makes sense.
Sure.
I could see the Flyers getting Pacioretty if they feel like they're going to have trouble locking up Wayne Simmons when his contract runs out. That's maybe where that makes sense.
It gets real interesting. That was one of the things I was going to say with regards to being a potential con to a deal in that circumstances, because he's 2 years left on the deal. You've got Simmons. You're losing Sanheim, who's arguably Philadelphia's top defensive prospect, who's not playing currently on the team. You're giving up a 3rd-round pick, as Eck just mentioned. Plus, you're going to be potentially shipping Simmons, all for basically for Pacioretty. Now, that being said, he's in his prime, big scoring wing for Giroux, Couturier. You could see where he could certainly fit in. He's a leader. He could potentially enhance a lot of young players' development as he's there. Philly also would have to be very comfortable with where Phil Myers is at right now in terms of his if he can ostensibly replace Sanheim in system. But again, I'm a little bit still leery on Myers because of his past concussion history. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily would be ready necessarily to move off, at least from my perspective. And the Flyers are obviously going to know more in this case in terms of his health than I will. He looked fine, certainly during developmental camp. But again, that's still something that kind of sticks in the back of my mind. And the fact also Philadelphia's not quite a contender yet. Pacioretty seems to be like an addition to our team that's just about ready to get over the top. Right. And Philly's not quite in that particular circumstance. Again, 28 years, there's some good things certainly in that perspective. From Montreal's perspective, again, you get Sanheim, you're getting the immediate replacement for Sergachev, a guy who I think is, again, in Sanheim, I think is a franchise-level defenseman. It does, however, from the con for Montreal is you're taking away their team captain, you're taking away the scoring ability and size, doesn't run counter to what Bergevin has been trying to building towards. I mean, they need scoring, they need size. I mean, they've certainly done that. but you would lose that in this circumstance. I could see why they moved off of Pacioretty quickly in this case. Galchenyuk, again, it comes down to he's younger, obviously, in this case. But, yeah, it's interesting from Philadelphia's perspective that they wouldn't be interested in Galchenyuk. But, again, certainly I wouldn't deal Sanheim for Galchenyuk. Right. That's for sure. Right. But it's interesting they said no other defenseman in this case. That's the part that I find interesting because there's some other defenseman in system that I certainly would consider moving him as part of the package to get Galchenyuk if they were interested.
I had muted you because of the wind, and now I can't unmute you. So, I was just to say, yeah, you'd have to just shut it down, and we'll have you on the next show. And he's making hand gestures here. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that once I muted you, I couldn't bring it back. Okay. All right. I just think that in this instance that I mean Sanheim is their best. I mean Provorov's already in the NHL, so Sanheim is the best guy not there. And unless you're getting the
one thing I will say, Mike, I don't want to interrupt, but the one thing I will say is Philly, because they've bulked up on so many defensive prospects and have so many guys in the system, eventually they are going to have to move guys off.
Right.
The question is whether or not they're trying to cut that off at the pass. But again, Sanheim showed so much promise last year. Now, he does need, I think, a little more time in the A before I would see him playing in the NHL on a regular full-time basis. But he's in many ways kind of like – it's almost like an Alex Pietrangelo situation where when they move him, when they bring him up, I think he's going to be ready. He will be ready really to really be an effective defenseman at this level. But again, that's where I kind of see things right now.
My whole thing is, as far as Galchenyuk is concerned, like you have Konechny. He's already that guy. Like Galchenyuk, they're not sure if he's a center or a winger. Konechny in the future could always play center, but he's a winger right now. Like, what is really the difference between these two players? Like, that's why I don't see a fit.
I don't see the fit either in this case. I really don't.
Now as far as JVR,
let's
talk about JVR for a minute. Now, is it true the Rangers have liked him and wanted him, and he's wanted to go there? Yes. But right now the Rangers' weakness is at center. If they get another winger, it doesn't improve their chances at center. And so now if they put JT Miller at center, there's a spot on the wing. But for JVR to play in, top 6 situation there, they're going to have to move some guys around. I don't see it happening. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It's like he made sure to stipulate that the guy that we heard about in the Bozak rumor, which was Nick Holden. We'd heard from Kevin McGran, who reported in July that the Leafs had absolutely no interest in Nick Holden, and that makes sense because Nick Holden in a JVR deal makes sense. Doesn't add up because he's not a great deal. He's a bottom pairing defenseman at best, who was used in a top 4 role because Alain Vigneault liked him in New York, and I still don't get it. But the Leafs are expecting to get a good return if they are trading JVR or if they're trading Bozak. And I don't see the Rangers trading Brady Shea.
No.
And I don't see them trading any. They probably would love to trade Mark Stahl and get out of that contract, but I don't think a team like Toronto is taking that contract back. So I don't see the pieces really fitting there unless the Leafs are getting a first-round pick, and
I don't think Gordon's doing that.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening either. So I don't know. I mean, Columbus and Florida.
If you want to know the fit, I'll give you the fit. If you want the fit for JVR, then it would be JVR for Rick Nash. Then you might be talking something, because then the Rangers get out from under even though it's the last year of Nash's deal. Maybe they have something else in mind where if they were to get rid of Nash, they'd have some more money to spend. Yeah. They might do that.
Well, the Leafs would be taking back Nash. I mean, they're expecting to get a future return or a current return that they can hold on to for a few years.
Well, I mean, that's what you think, but maybe the Leafs aren't looking for that anymore because they already have the future. Like, they are sort of going for it a little bit this year, and so maybe they would do that.
But after they've done Marlowe, Russ?
I know,
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's the tough part.
They already did Marlowe already.
They did Marlowe.
I see they're more like in that scenario, Russ. I see there's more of a chance that they trade JVR someplace and would take Nash in a deal from the Rangers, but not 1-for-1 because they want to get, a prospect or a defenseman or a young defenseman or a draft pick. So they're not going to give up JVR for a guy who's a rent-a-player on the other side. And that makes no sense.
Yeah.
But just touching on it briefly, Columbus and Florida both make sense from a JVR standpoint. I think Columbus is looking to add some scoring. Maybe they don't want to rush a guy like Dubois. If they can, they got rid of Hartnell. They bring JVR in as a rental guy. Now, again, it's like the Leafs, that they have defensemen. Would the Leafs take Ryan Murray for JVR? I think in a second.
The Leafs would. I don't think Columbus would do that.
I think Columbus right now, for the most part, their weakness right now really is down the middle. That's the thing. Yeah, I think they've got pretty good enough wing depth. It's the center position for them that's a concern.
And that's why they moved. That's why they might move.
I was originally thinking potentially that Duchesne was a possible fit there for them.
That's why they'll give Dubois a shot at center to see where he's at.
Right.
And with Florida has that gap created by the absence of Jágr, and they I think they do need scoring. They have their Barkovs, they have their Huberdeaus, they have Trocheck, but if you get a bona fide scorer in there who can score 25 to 30 goals, I think that changes the landscape of the Panthers. But again, the Leafs are going to want a defenseman. They're not going to want Jason Demers because Jason Demers would be a salary dump. He's got 4 years left, making a little over 4.
Yeah, so who are you really taking there? They're not giving you. They're not giving you Matheson.
Oh, that's who I think the Leafs want.
Why would they do that?
Well, then I mean, come on, he's a commodity. He scored 30 goals. You're not going to give him. You're not going to give him
as you think. He's not.
I see. I think he is, and I think
Matheson, that's when you're talking about a guy in the blue line who could play top 4 for the next 10 years, and JVR's got a contract that's going to run out.
I'm not saying
you have to put something else in that deal to sweeten it from Florida's perspective to make that move. It's the only way that will occur. They got to have future. They have to have something for the future in this case.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree with that, and it may take something on top of. But I'm saying if they trade JVR, they're not trading. I think right now, until the trade deadline, they're not trading him for a draft pick and prospects. They're trading him for a guy who can fit in there.
No, because they'll just let him play. I think ultimately what's going to happen with JVR is he's just going to play for the Leafs.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do only. I put a list of 10 together. We'll only do 5. We'll save the other 5 for our next show. By the way, our next show will be on Wednesday, Tuesday, tomorrow. I am heading up to Toronto to see the New York Yankees kill the Toronto Blue Jays at Rogers Center. I will also be appearing on the Steve Dangle podcast. So if you want to be entertained completely like you are on the Hockey Buzzcast, you'll listen to and watch to that.
Ask Steve Dangle how his skating is, because he wasn't much better than me last time I skated with him.
No, both of you are better than me.
Steve could probably pile drive you into the floor at this point.
No way. He's not. Do you think I'm afraid of Dangle? Come on.
Steve's bulked up. He can't skate, but he can't skate, but boy's bulked up.
I don't worry about Steve Dangle.
I have selected 10 UFA veterans who are unsigned, who are still unsigned.
Okay.
I'll go through the first 5. We can do one of 3 things. We're evaluating one of 3 things. Will they get a 1-year contract? Will they get a professional tryout? Or will there be no takers for them by the beginning of training camp?
1-year tryout or Bubkus. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Okay. We will start with Dennis Weidman, who last year 18 points in 57 games, but that's not the problem. The problem is the lawsuit with Don Henderson.
That's a black cloud over his head.
That's a big black cloud. But we're talking about a right-hand shot defenseman who's 34 years old, who looks like he still has something left. Mm-hmm. And will a team give him a 1-year contract, a professional tryout, or, as you say, Anthony, Bupkis?
Tryout. I'm going to say, I think because of those assets that he does bring, he'll get a tryout. How long he'll last, I don't know. Could get Bupkis, but I'm gonna lean towards at least tryout, considering the need for defensemen.
Russ?
I'm going to go Bupkis.
Okay. I think he'll get a tryout. I think he will. I mean, I think that this lawsuit and the thing hanging over, it's going to scare a lot of teams off, but I think there'll be one team or two teams out there that are so desperate for defensemen that they'll ignore that and give him a chance. I can't guarantee that he's going to make it. And we know how this works. They take a professional tryout. Basically, the agent and the general manager will negotiate a contract if he makes it. They'll say he's going to make $925,000, and then but they don't sign anything. He's got to make the team. That's what happened with Mason Raymond a few years ago with the Leafs. They already negotiated the deal. It was just okay if he makes the team, that's what you're going to get. So then the only thing that changes there is, he could get an offer from another team if they like what they saw in their training camp. So, okay. So, Dennis Wyman was first one. Drew Stafford, 31 years old. After being traded from Winnipeg, he finished strong with the Bruins. I think he scored a couple goals in the playoffs for them.
He did.
Former Buffalo Sabre. He's had some good years. Anthony, tryout contract, Bupkis. We know Kaya just said Bupkis.
No, she was reacting to the ambulance. Keep it going.
Anthony?
I'm going to say Stafford. I'm between 1-year deal and tryout. I think we get into camp, there's an injury. He's good enough to get a one. He's kind of in that. I'm trying to think of the player off the tip of my tongue who kept bouncing around as a friend. Veteran player. Oh, my God. He just Stempniak. He's going to be like Lee Stempniak. Yeah. He'll string together 1-year deals. I'm going to say he gets a 1-year deal somewhere.
Yeah, I think he'll get a 1-year deal. I still think the Bruins will call him in. I do.
Yeah, I'll agree with that 1-year deal.
You know what'll probably happen? They'll probably trade Spooner or somebody last minute, and then he'll get assigned to a 1-year deal.
I mean, the holdup might be the fact that they're saving cap room to sign Pasternak to the deal.
It could be, and that could be the holdup.
Yeah. Okay, veteran defenseman, 37-year-old Francois Beauchemin was bought out of the last year of the contract by Colorado. The thing is, he did play 81 games. He averaged over 20 minutes a night, so he can still play at what level? I don't know. Maybe at best a bottom pairing. Anthony, contract, tryout, or Bupkis?
He may get initially I think he initially gets a tryout, but I think if there's injury, somebody's going to take a flyer on him on a 1-year deal. But I think
I think it's a Seidenberg. You think it's a Seidenberg scenario?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right because he's a veteran. He's reliable. If you're using him in a bottom pairing situation, you can kind of shelter that and get some level of effective play depending on the team he's playing for, of course. Right. But I'm going to say, that one's one of those things where I think he initially gets a tryout, but then somebody gives him a 1-year deal before.
Russ?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where Corey Cross was playing 70-something games a year too. And we know how fondly Elite fans think about him.
Love that guy.
I'm gonna say he will get a tryout with somebody. I could see him getting a tryout like with the Capitals. That's what I could say.
Yeah, strangely enough, I could see him getting a tryout with Anaheim again because now that they lost Theodore, they bought out Dupre. Maybe they don't want to rush. I mean, I think Montour's ready, but maybe they don't want to rush a guy like Larson. Maybe they'll have Beauchemin as the 6th, 7th guy, and we know he can play well in Anaheim. He's done it so many times in the past. Yeah. If
somebody makes a trade with Vegas between now and then maybe Vegas signs him.
And then, but the thing is you sign with Vegas, you basically are on the understanding that you're signing with Vegas to be traded someplace else.
Whatever. I mean, a job is a job.
In this case, I don't think that's something that Beauchemin can really sort of dictate at this point now.
Yeah. A job is a job, Mike.
Okay, winger Milan Mahalik was caught up in the Robidas Island scenario with the Maple Leafs. Played 5 games for the Leafs, got sent down, and never was seen from again. And basically halfway through the Marley season, he disappeared. Now he's only 32 years old. I think he has something left, but I don't know about if he's got NHL speed anymore. And we know speed is a problem. is a problem for veteran players. Anthony, contract, tryout, Bupkis.
I think he's actually. I really think. I mean, even with the age, that his dropping off off a cliff with the Marlies, really, that's teams are going to look at that and say and wonder about the player's motivation. They're going to look at the skill set and be willing to give him, I think, to start off with a tryout. And if he looks good enough, then he could potentially get the 1-year deal. But I'm leaning towards tryout in this case.
And that's not going to be fair because, basically and I have no evidence of this other than seeing it firsthand. Brooks Laich and Milan Mihalik at a certain point, I think they were just told, go away because you're not going to play.
Right.
Yeah, there was supposedly it was injury situations, but they were looking to develop their young players, and at a certain point, like in late February, March, you didn't see these guys anymore, and they didn't play in the playoffs at all. So in the AHL, in the Calder Cup playoffs for the Marlies. Okay, Russ, tryout, contract, Bupkis.
I mean, look, Ales Hemsky's a year older, and he's hanging on by his thumbs. I don't think Mihalik even gets a tryout. I think he gets Bupkis.
Yeah, I'm afraid Russ is right. I think it's going to be Bupkis. He might end up going to the KHL
somewhere.
Yeah, I don't see a contract for him. I could see someone giving him a tryout, but I don't see a contract for him.
Mm-hmm. And finally, and this guy's name has popped up a couple times over the last couple weeks, but there's been nothing finalized. Cody Franzen, right-hand shot defenseman. Now, I have to say, seeing firsthand in Buffalo, after seeing him play in Toronto for a few years, he was very subpar in Buffalo. And it wasn't injuries. It was just it was not a good fit. In Toronto, he played power play. When he got traded to Nashville, he was behind Weber. He was behind Yossi. He got no power play time. He was a bottom-pairing guy.
Del Zotto went there.
Yeah, and I think it really hurt his value, and he took basically a bridge deal from the Sabres, and the Sabres never really gave him. They may have given him an opportunity, but didn't take advantage of it. There's been talk about New Jersey and Chicago with tryouts, but he hasn't gone that way. Do you think it's contract, tryout, or Bupkis, Anthony?
Probably tryout. I'm going to say tryout at this point. That being said, he's getting towards the latter. He's in terms of chances in the NHL, he's beginning to rapidly run out of those. And this may be the last year that a team's going to be willing to do that for him. And so I'm going to say at this. I know he's the darling of the advanced stat, advanced stat community, and I'm going to take a beating for it. But I've seen him play. He skates like he's in molasses at times, and he gets beat laterally. And I'm sorry, the name of the job is defenseman. You do have to actually cover laterally, and I didn't see enough of that from him in the games that I saw him. Maybe it was just a bad game in that case, but I'm sorry. After a while, you kind of have to just realize that. And you can give me all the advanced stats and try to tell me Nick Zherdev was going to be a good player. Was a good player for the Flyers. Sorry, the eyes didn't lie when I was watching Nick Zherdev.
So Nick Zherdev, I got to tell you, he did something that no other player has ever done. And when the Flyers cut him after practice,
Panacho for being in the mob.
No, that was good. But when the Flyers cut him right after practice, he literally went to the back of the building, and a limo was waiting for him.
Oh, yeah.
And that was spectacular. He left Philly in a limo. It was great.
Yep. Yeah.
Was it paid for by Ilya Bryzgalov? No, just kidding.
No idea.
Okay.
Cody Franzen, I've heard rumors that the Blackhawks are going to invite him into camp. And as desperate as they are on defense, I can see that happen.
It's a tryout. Yeah, that's me.
I think it's going to be a tryout. And if it's the Blackhawks, pretty much the tryout means he's going to make the team. Because if you look – If you look at their defense right now after trading Yarmulson, which I think that could be the move that hurts a contending team the most that was made this summer because, Joel Quenneville relied so much on those top three, on Yarmulson, on Keith, and on Seabrook. And now that he's had one of the legs taken out of his table, and he's going to have to rely on Connor Murphy and Cody Franzen if they sign him. I mean, that's
not – you have those two guys on your blue line playing regular minutes. That's –
If I was a savvy investor, I would invest on the Joel Quenneville swear jar this year, because I think he'll be putting a lot of money in that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So okay, we'll do the second half of this list on Wednesday.
It's going to be compelling, folks. This is a great list.
Yeah, we're leaving you in suspense.
The best of the rest.
It's a cliffhanger, and we're not going to be telling any spoilers. Like
Cliffhanger was a horrible movie. Come on, Mike.
Which one?
Cliffhanger.
Oh God, yes. What's worse, Cliffhanger or Cobra? Of bad Stallone movies.
Wow. Okay, there's a lot of bad Stallone movies. That's a good
The
one.
Lithgow in that flick or what?
How about Over the Top?
No. Over the Top has a cult-like horrible feeling that will make you watch it again. So I think you should keep Over the Top out of it. I think, believe it or not, I think Cobra is worse, because at least Cliffhanger has some cinematography.
Yeah, and Rocky 4 is bad. It's just
Rocky
bad.
4 doesn't exist in my world.
Yes. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Anthony Mangione. Thank you, Russ Cohen. Thanks for everyone watching.
Thanks,
we will
Eck.
be back on Wednesday. Thank you, Eck. Well, he's the host. I'm just subbing. I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.